You are very welcome to the community chat show, courtesy of Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV. Today's discussion is about the industrial action that is ongoing, that was declared by the Uganda National Association of Teachers Union, Uganda National Teachers Union, a labor union that unites all teachers under their umbrella. They come together to advocate for their rights, to also improve their work. UNATU declared an industrial action about 3 weeks ago, and they laid down their tools in protest of an unfair, what they term an unfair payment module that government has adopted, wherein science teachers are being paid a different scale or more than the other teachers. So other teachers, that is the arts teachers, also declared an industrial action saying they want equal pay. Now, to help us understand how this has affected the other stakeholders, that is to say, of course, government, parents, learners, members of the community, I'm joined by distinguished people I'll call upon to introduce themselves. I call upon Paul to introduce himself and to also tell us what he does. Thereafter, I will have Mr. Onen to introduce himself. Then we shall kick off the discussion.
Thank you very much, Martin. I'm privileged to be here. My name is Paul Aruho. I'm a lecturer of institutional relations at Uganda Technical College, Bushenyi. And I'm also a trained teacher. I'm also a trained journalist. So I do some media training. I have worked as an instructor and a teacher for the last 20 years. And being here is a privilege to talk about teachers and their plight, and this issue of the impact of this strike to the stakeholders. I'm privileged to be here, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Onen, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. I'm called Douglas Onen. I'm very privileged to be here. I'm a student of law at Uganda Christian University. I'm very humbled to come here to discuss matters that regard teachers and their strike and demystify its effect to us, the students. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Onen, and I will begin with you. Of course, this has affected learners. I mean, teachers being on an industrial action for almost a month has affected learners. Please paint for us, give us the side of the learners. How are the learners being affected in this? How and how are they being contained, without being in class for now almost a month?
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. Well, actually, in the year 2013, and then the teachers were striking. And being a candidate then, and I was being in my P7, the effects that it had, because many students, many pupils by then, would come to school and just go outside and start playing and not actually do something that is quite engaging in classwork. Now, the impact of such, seeing that seeing that many students are not in position to go ahead and study because teachers are on industrial action, it has quite a huge effect on the students at large. Now, this is seen in a scenario whereby we are just from the lockdown, and students have been home for over 2 years, and not long after the lockdown, now we have a scenario whereby teachers are on industrial action because they are striking because of unfair payments. Now, what does this do to us, the students? What this does to us, the students, this not only will affect the quality of the students that this nation is going to produce, but it will even go ahead and affect the psychology of the students themselves, because your parents send you to school so that you go ahead and pass and give them good grades. But because that you want in position to attend classes, teachers delivering within classes, this will have an effect in the results that will in the end also affect the psychological part of the students, which is not good for the learning process of the students. Basically, briefly, that is what I can say about the effect of this industrial action to the students. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that overview of the students' angle. Let's have Mr. Aruho. Paul, please tell us what the situation of the teachers is like at this particular moment. We know that, of course, an industrial action was declared. We understand a number of teachers are not going to school. But then we want to know, what about the science teachers that seem contented? Are they also not going to school, not teaching? And also, you will consequently paint for us the picture of how parents are reacting to this. How are they taking this? Do parents think it's justified that and destruction goes on, or parents are looking for other alternatives where to take their children perhaps in private schools, So you could paint for us that picture before we dive deep into the conversation.
Thank you, Martin. What is happening here is that when you talk with parents, most parents really understand what the teachers are saying because of the angle it was brought in. Because the fact that the president has always been talking about sciences, how they are, so much important in this country compared to their counterparts of arts. Some parents really, there's a way how they understand it, especially even the rural poor parent. There's a way how they understand it, saying that if teachers go and train, and when you come, when they are employed, you want to segregate them, to discriminate them in payment. That is where they come in as parents, and they are saying, no, that shouldn't be the case. So some parents, by the way, they have understood what teachers are going through, and most of them, when you talk to them, they support them. However, they didn't think that it will take this long. The strike is taking a bit longer than they thought, and some parents are giving it a second thought, and they are saying, why can't, by this time, they wish they can pressurize the government to sit down with parents, to sit down with teachers, and see a way forward. Because in urban areas, it may not be that bad, but when you come to rural areas, rural schools are shut. Let me tell you, there is most of the schools I've gone to in the Bushenyi district, in these areas, most schools are shut. There is nobody at school. Sometimes it is the head teacher who comes around and opens the office and entertains a few people who come around, and then even for him around 1 he also closes a school and goes back home. If you come to Bushenyi, where we are starting a season of growing millet, kids are in gardens. They are with parents. They are preparing gardens for millet. This is where some parents are saying, okay, somehow it has helped them because these kids are providing cheap labor. But this is not what should go to what should be happening in our schools. Secondly, if I can come to the issue of teachers, in some schools, especially secondary schools, where you find that you have teachers of science and teachers of arts in the same environment, let me tell you, the environment is not good. People are angry. People, they look stressed. You talk to someone and he feels like, talking to you not the way teachers talk. People are stressed. People no longer talk to each other. Anything you talk about is reactional. So there is a very big problem, and it is going to have a serious impact on our education system. I don't know how far this will go, but there is a likelihood that it is going to have an impact on both students and even teachers in our schools. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul, for painting to us the picture of both the students and parents. Now, I want to ask you to discuss what causes these perennial strikes. Mr. Onen has told us even when he was in school, teachers used to go on industrial action all the time. So what is causing these relentless, perennial, or you could even say perpetual industrial actions that go on and on? The issues are never resolved. What causes them? It never stops. There is even a time there was a serious industrial action, and the then Prime Minister told the teachers, if they don't want to teach, let them go and dig. Like you said, some are already gone back to their gardens. What is happening? Why do we keep on having these industrial actions? Then Onen will also have an opportunity to weigh in on that. So please tell us in like 3 minutes. Then we also have Onen's view on the same.
Thank you, Martin. Of course, when we look at the current strike, it is all about pay. It is all about pay, and I think when you look at the previous strikes, pay has been the cause. And another thing, I think the reason why we have this particular one is the unfulfilled promises of the government. The government promised teachers in 2018 that they are going to increase their pay, which they call enhancement, in a phased manner. So I think the fact that the government is not fulfilling its obligation is the reason why we are having these strikes. And another reason is the way we take we enumerate people who serve in this government, because when teachers see other people being remunerated differently, or when they see that other people demand for an increase in pay and they are considered, I think they also feel that they are supposed to be they are supposed to be heard that way. The good thing with teachers is that they sat down with government and agreed on certain terms and conditions, and agreed on the way they are going to do this. And they had thought that is how it would be done. But along the way, they brought in a different aspect, where they are saying they are supposed to pay science teachers, and leave out arts teachers on an increment that really, is too much. 300% increment of a salary is too much. So when such happens, of course, there is a likelihood that it will force someone to go on strike. And then another thing is the way government prioritizes its issues. Because, for example, if a primary teacher who has been waiting for an increment and sees, a member of parliament, sitting down and just walks away with 40 million. Of course, if you divide the money the parliament took to the number of teachers we have in this country, it will be a very small increment. However, if they sit down and see, those people just, take money, they give them money for cars, when they look at those things, the government, how the government does its things, they think of, why can't we also demand our rights? So what I'm seeing is all about pay and the unfulfilled promises that have sparked off this particular strike.
Thank you very much, Paul. Ms. Onen, in your view, what do you think is the cause of this ever-ending industrial action for teachers? Actually, it doesn't end. It's like we've been in one industrial action from way back. They just call it off for a moment. They just pause it. They say, okay, we've called it off, but not necessarily that the things have been handled. So in your view, as a person who has studied through industrial action, all through this continuous industrial action, what do you think is the cause of this unending one?
Well, allow me to start by saying that teachers are a fundamental fabric of the society. Teachers are the makers of the future presidents, the future ministers, the future engineers, and future lawyers. But in a state whereby we have unsatisfied labor, in this instance, unsatisfied teachers, we are going to have a very huge effect on the labor that we shall produce in the next 20 or so years. Now, that's the unending. Towards the end of last year in December, we saw what happened with medical interns and the medical interns and medical professionals. They also went on what? On industrial action because of unfulfilled pledges. I do agree with Mr. Paul Aruho that one of the major causes is unfulfilled pledges and promises. Because what took the medical interns and medical professionals on strike was because of the unfulfilled promises and pledges that the government had made and hadn't gone by that promise. So that is one serious cause that leads to teachers going on, that leads to, let's say in general, labor going for industrial action. Now, the second most other issue that I think is crucial for me to talk about that leads to this unending industrial action is the issue of the high administrative costs and extravagant and the high administrative costs that lead and the extravagant way of spending money in this country. Now, if I look at the high administrative costs, recently members of parliament received 40 million shillings as a thank you for passing the supplementary budget. Now, when a teacher sees that a member of parliament who went through their hands is receiving 40 million Ugandan shillings as a thank you, and yet them or this arts teacher who is being paid approximately 800,000 is not being paid. Now, that alone demoralizes these teachers. Now, if you have a government that extremely that has a high administrative cost and extravagantly spends money, it's one way or the other demoralizing factor for its labor. And that's what is maybe also leading to the teachers going on strike, because you have a body that is supposed to be fulfilling its promises, but one or the other are not fulfilling its promises because they are buying for the speakers of parliament a ceremonial car worth 2.8 billion Ugandan shillings. Tell me if you are a history teacher, if you want to go on industrial action and yet you're receiving 800,000, you have to go out and you have to go and buy fuel, that the same fuel that science teachers also still get. So that alone is a factor that will demoralize a number of teachers. For me as a student, I feel this is going to lead to the effect that is going to have to the quality of our labor in 20 or so years. It's going to be high. If at the moment we have students in rural areas, as Mr. Aruho has said, students in rural areas are not going to school because the schools are closed. Now, what does that mean? Teachers have a very huge impact on students, not only in terms of academic, but in terms of increasing students' self-esteem. But in a scenario whereby these students are not going to school, they are going to the gardens with their parents, one or the other, they will even get demoralized, not themselves. And we shall have, in years to come, we shall have a high illiterate, we shall have more illiteracy rates. And not only shall we have a substandard labor force in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Onen. You know, it's actually shocking how government has can prioritize other sectors, as both of you have said. And then the teachers who have had perhaps their demands consistent for a very long time are not, prioritized. And we know that it's not the first time that people are demanding for salary enhancement, but it delays, it does it. We keep on seeing promises, yet the other newcomers, we can't say on the list, who demand every year, and they're added. Someone was talking about the politicians who are kept on constantly added salaries, benefits of, let's say, judicial officers have increased in the actually it was in the last financial year. But then teachers have kept on demanding, and people keep on saying, the government keeps on saying that, you know what, we don't have money, Yet other sectors are enhanced. And you'd be shocked, they are not even asking for 100% increase. They're not asking a lot. It's not that they're saying you double our salary by 4. By 4. So if a teacher is earning 1.5, they're not necessarily saying that we shall be earning 4.5 at the end of the time. Yet other people, when they're increasing their money, it's by a lot of money, by over 5 million, and what if these ones are just money, just a small percentage. So it's shocking. And what the two of you are saying really, really brings it out that they're seeing the expenditures, they're seeing other people, and then they're not being prioritized. But I want us to go back to the issue of the numbers. We know that there are around 15 Ugandans or 15 people in schools. Of course, universities are not striking, which makes a very small percentage. So after university, you'd find like around 14 point something million people are in schools. Of those, majority are in government schools. Government schools make around 73% of the schools in this country. Now that is primary alone. Secondary also makes a very big percentage of learners. In fact, around 8 to 9 million learners, could be around 8 to 9 are in primary schools. A big number of those are, they actually, almost the entire number is in government schools. So Aruho, Mr. Aruho, where does this leave the students, who is supposed to be accessing this education now, who is supposed to be competitive, with people across the world? We have a very big number of people who are now not studying, yet time is going, and we are in a global world. Other countries are continuously educating their people, but us here, we had COVID, and then now we are having time lost. Where does this leave the quality of a student?
Thank you very much, Martin, once again. As Mr. Onen said, the impact of this strike will be felt somewhere in some years to come. We shall feel the impact of these continuous strikes in this country. And you remember that Uganda was one of the, I think was the country that had the longest lockdown. I think we are the people who took the longest lockdown on this earth. That withstanding, now we have this strike, which is negatively affecting our learners. And let me tell you, Martin and colleagues, the way when you go to the villages now, and you see those young girls, those young boys who are not in school, you know what happened during COVID, that a number of girls got pregnant. In these 2 weeks, there is a likelihood that other girls will get pregnant. Young girls are being defiled. Young girls are involved in child labor. So there is a negative effect that is going to be witnessed not now, but in the near future. I want to put it to you that there is a likelihood that there are some students or some pupils who will not go back to school. There is a likelihood that there are some pupils who will not go back to school. For example, those young people I saw in making bricks, they are in stone quarrying. There is a likelihood that there are those people who will not go back to school. And what does that mean? That there is a quality of people. There is a population quality we shall have in future, which is going to be a burden to this to us, to this country. Now I saw young people being brought to police yesterday in the morning, and they were very young, although I didn't find out whether they were school going or not. But there is a likelihood that these young people are committing crime. There is a likelihood that these people are stealing. They have now getting involved in drug abuse. They are doing some of the things which we are likely to regret in the near future. Secondly, that COVID stressed almost everyone, including pupils, including parents. We have parents who are stressed. First of all, staying with children for the 2 years, and now they are stressed at home with the kids. It is this strike is going to have an impact on this government, is going to have an impact on us as citizens of this country. And in the near future, we shall see the results, the negative results, as Onen said, in the workforce, where we have people who don't have skills, who cannot do anything, and they are dependent on the what? On government. Lastly, you talked about the increment on teachers, that they are not demanding a lot. And, the government is not all that, does not come in so fast to help them. I agree with you, and because the largest labor force in this country, they are teachers. Teachers are very many if you compare to any other kind of labor force sector. Therefore, an increment, any increment, of course, means a lot. Teachers were not against that. They were not against the small enhancement that would come each year as the years go by. They are against of coming up in the morning and you increase a section, one section of teachers, 300%, and then you leave the other ones at zero. I have seen people saying that if we, already the money that is in the budget, if we increase it, if we spread it over, that's, you know, we will find a teacher taking like 40,000. Teachers are not against that. What they are against is lack of commitment of this government to enhance or to make the teaching process a better process to enjoy, to feel that, you know, you are part of this, and it is your profession, and, you know, you enjoy it. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul, for painting, for indeed substantiating that, and you've told us that we are going to have an issue with students or products that do not match up because they have lost time, you know, because the teachers are also not motivated, the teachers feel left out, so it puts the products of our education system in balance. On the show, we've been joined by Mr. Goodluck Musinguzi, who is an educationist, and Mr. Goodluck Musinguzi, please unmute and introduce yourself to our viewers. Okay, as Mr. Musinguzi comes back, in adding on to what you are saying, Aruho, around the Ministry of Education actually has noted and has on its payroll about 250,000 teachers. So that's a big number of people. So when you have such a number of people who are not currently teaching, then there is indeed a real short gap. And you noted that teachers are the majority, who make up around 270,000 teachers in total, including those in private. So you see that government has the biggest number of teachers. Mr. Goodluck Musinguzi, are you now able to
yes,
say
good afternoon.
something? Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Yes, thanks very much. As a parent, and as I was hearing other panelists speaking, I have that pain as a person, that children are going through this. Yet again, another issue that makes them stay at home. The other time we were at home, all of us, because of the pandemic. I was reading through in London or UK, United Kingdom, also the teachers are threatening to go on strike. But the secretary, or who is like the Minister of Education, was talking to them saying the children have gone through a pandemic. If you do this, if you demand money or go in the strike immediately, what does that mean? They have just written to the concerned authorities. They have indicated they're also going to go on strike. So it seems to be a global challenge. If you see, if we go to Sri Lanka, we have seen the economy almost shutting down. People have gone back home. So as a parent, I'm trying to ask myself, how do we balance all this? That you are from a pandemic, and all of a sudden, now there comes a challenge of money. And deep in my heart, I ask myself, because I as a person, I don't earn a salary. So I might not easily understand when people say they want to be equal and all that, because I don't see equality in all that I do all the time. I know some people are a bit up there, others are wherever they are, but all of us maybe are trying to look for education. So I always ask myself when people go to strikes that in case your issue is worked on, will you be able to come up and, I mean, this time lost, will it be ever be paid? Like all the panelists are saying that the children are going to lose. We are going to lose some students, some children who might, after all, say, I no longer want to go to school. Maybe this time I have. But as a parent, sometimes I go back to God and say, I don't want to be on the same page or take the same line the panelists have said, much as I agree with them. But I want to say this, maybe God will get us through this challenge. What I've seen with life is that when there is too much sunshine, at one time there will be rain. So I have a feeling that to those who are sitting, to those who are discussing between government and the teachers, that we hope this doesn't really move to take the whole of July, because if July goes, I have a candidate in primary 7. What will happen to her and the others who are looking forward to sitting the exams? We can only say maybe they have been in this same class for 2 years. Maybe they will find a way of catching up. But basically, if I'm to talk to a teacher who is striking, I know you have all these rights. It's like when you're a driver and you're on a road, you have the right to make sure the road is smooth, you go back home. But maybe if you find, for example, if those who have gone through Katonga, you find the road is closed and you are being told the only way you can go maybe through a longer route, going through PG, Sembabuli, and maybe connect to Masaka again. So it seems that's like the road. And as Paul has said, the numbers are very many. As to those who are cutting the bread, I know what happens at my home. You wake up, you have all these needs, yet in the basket or where you have 100,000 shillings, somebody wants medicine, somebody wants food, somebody wants clothing, the landlord is there, you need to buy airtime to communicate with those maybe you work with, you need transport to work. We are in a time where the demands, when you compare them to what is in the basket in terms of distribution, is tough. So I don't know where to put government, but I know I'm also there as a parent, that every day when I wake up, and for the last 2 years, it has been so hard that sharing, distributing what is not there is a tough one. So sometimes we have chosen to survive, where you say, I will not buy new clothes, but I will just buy food to see that we survive. Now, let me go to this. When people are paid, for me, I look at it from the economics part of it. When people are paid, whatever money will be paid to individuals, is that they come back and support our economy. That's the money that goes back. For example, if a teacher is paid and he's going to school, he doesn't have a motorcycle, he'll pay boda boda. If the teacher has a boda boda, will buy fuel. If these people also go to the shops, they will go to the shops, they will buy groceries, and at the end of the day, there is flow of capital in society, in our society. So for me, yes, I support that people should be paid whatever money. I don't know what's enough for them as individuals, but I can comfortably say I support people having money in my community, because when they have money to spend, really the economics is going on. But as to when you will get enough, or as when this strike stops, as a parent, I kind of don't know. But I say we are affected, we are disturbed, we would want to see this end. So I don't know, as a parent, I keep asking myself, who is going to say, maybe let me go back to class, or maybe let me find money. So for me, it's a question that I can't answer fully as a person. But every day when I see children go to school and they come back and they say we have not studied, it's very disturbing. It's not good. But also equally, I hope the teachers will also sit down and say, and moderator, I want to know, when the health sector, we know either last month or early this month, they announced an industrial action, and in between, they said, let's go back to work. I don't know whether they were promised. I don't know what was put in there. So for us here as parents, we wake up knowing that our children should be in school. When they are not in school, I don't know whether I should blame a teacher. I don't know whether I should blame government. But for me, all of them should sit down and sort issues, look at things squarely. My duty is to take a child to school. If not, then in Rwanda, at some point, children, most parents withdrew children from the government schools and took them to the private schools. But then later on, we saw the current reports show that the children have now moved from private schools back to government. So I don't know whether we are being told to withdraw our children from the government schools. We go to the public, we go to the private schools. And if these schools close, what will happen? So I leave it at that. It's just a question that is.
Thank you very much. You've posed actually, thank you very much. You've posed quite a number of questions for us to think about. Well, first to comment on what you said about in another country where people chose to withdraw their children from government schools, private schools. Well, it's within their wish to do that. However, government is mandated to provide education. It's enshrined even in our constitution, in our laws, even the international laws. Government is supposed to provide the highest attainable quality of education, of course, progressively. Yeah. And also that further goes to what I want to ask, I want Mr. Onen to comment about. Government is supposed to provide the highest attainable right of education progressively, and that means it should be within its means, okay, to provide that. Now, teachers are asking for money, and there are many teachers, whereas we said that if government prioritized them, it wouldn't maybe be as burdensome, but but we also agree that there would be a cost to this. In the independence of 25th June, they noted that the writer here is Andrew Mwenda, who broke down some of the figures. The current science teacher A diploma holder was earning around 700,000, and then a degree holder was earning around 900,000. That amount has been enhanced. Actually, science teachers who are diploma holders were earning between 700 to 900,000, and then degree holders around 1 million. Now, diploma holders are getting about 3 million, according to the new salary structures that has prompted the arts teachers, and then a degree holder to about 4 million. So we see, according to this paper, that is almost actually double. It's almost 100%. It's over 100% increase to around 300% increase. Well, we could agree it's long overdue. If this was done in a phased manner, it would have been better. It wouldn't be a shocker now. Otherwise, when you catapult someone who has been earning 1 million to 4 million, even their lifestyle is going to change. Even their purchasing power is going to change, and their standard of living is going to change suddenly. And that goes to where Mr. Musinguzi was saying that people should be given money. So if you make over 250 people get triple their salaries, where does that leave the economy? Okay, putting a lot of money in the hands of the people, a big number of people in an economy that is small anyway. Okay, while others are still poor. Let's agree Uganda is still a largely poor country. A person who earns 4 million is actually a good salary earned. So for you to increase that, I'm wondering, could be a challenge, economically. But having said that, the reasons are valid, but also the salaries that government has been giving these arts teachers is still low. It has been low because 700,000 and it has just been revised now is problematic. Maybe it's high time, and this goes to you, Onen, that we have a minimum wage. What do you think? It's high time because many countries have minimum wages. There's an amount beyond which a person is not supposed, is beyond which a person, or below which a person shouldn't earn. Secondly, on top of minimum wage, the conditions under which teachers work, they need to be, I think they should be improved. Mr. Onen, please have your say on that.
Well, allow me to start by saying that as a country, we do have a government-mandated minimum wage, but it's unfortunate that many institutions in the country do not abide by the government's minimum wage. The minimum wage that the country set in 2017 is 130,000, and yet many do not abide by it. So if you have to convert 130,000 into US dollars, that's approximately like $40. So honestly speaking, if in a month you're earning approximately $40, then anyway, it's true that we are a developing nation, but up to the standards of this world, that is still very low. So to answer the question of, as a country, do we need a minimum wage? We do have it, but the question is, how best do we implement it? I think the implementation process of the minimum wage has been a problem because we have had it, we have it, but the implementation is not as effective as it ought to be. Uganda as a country, we have very many good laws, but our problem comes down to implementing those laws, which is a problem that we have seen running in almost every sector in this country. Having answered that, allow me engage with my panelists on some issues. Well, Mr. Musinguzi brought out a very, very crucial issue that it's true. I do not disagree. Our national basket isn't enough. But the issue is, however much our national basket isn't enough. I know recently we passed a budget of approximately 48 trillion shillings. Yes, that is, it's what we can afford at the moment. But our national basket not being enough still then comes down. Even with the national basket not being enough, do we have key leadership? Do we have leadership in our government? We have seen our leaders. Even with the little resources that we have, there is high administrative costs. It's still taking back to the high administrative costs. There is high levels of being extravagant. Now, that still doesn't relate because you have a country that even you have little resources, and even with the little resources, you cannot utilize the little resources properly. Now, that then takes you to the plight of the teachers. Why are the teachers then striking? You see, it's true that we have a very small national basket, and then even the small one, it's not utilized properly. Hence the outcry of these teachers, which I do agree with them. There's a question you asked Mr. Paul Aruho about the quality of the students that we are to produce. Allow me to engage with that as well. Well, I would love to start fast forward and say that we are going to have a way below average quality of students that we are to have, even quality of labor in years to come. Just look at this scenario. The strikes that are happening right now are majorly in government institutions, leaving alone the private institutions. Where does that leave us? We have students who are in private institutions who are receiving quality education at the moment because possibly their parents or guardians can afford. But we also have students who are in government institutions, majority of which are in rural areas, and they are not studying. Now, where does that put us? We are in a divide. We shall have an inequality not only of the quality of labor that we shall produce, but quality of students we shall produce. These students are going to sit for the same UNEB exam. These students are going to compete in the same highly competitive environment, unemployed environment of this country. Now, if you have a scenario that you're already creating a divide now, this divide now is going to have effects in the future because you have students who are going to these private institutions and are receiving quality education because the parents can afford it, which majority of parents in Uganda cannot afford taking their students to private institutions because they're expensive. But then because the government institutions are cheaper, they opt for that. I thought UPE was supposed to be free, but even with UPE, parents are even still paying money for the students to access UPE. But even UPE being free, what quality or how the quality of UPE that we are seeing now isn't the quality of UPE of people that we're seeing that it went to school then. Our parents, our guardians say, they proudly say that for someone who is from Goodluck, they say, I went to St. Joseph's College, Laibi, and I excel. But right now, if you have to get someone from a rural area and put them in the same environment with someone who has studied in an urban school, there is a huge divide. I'm speaking from the side of the student because I know the effect it's going to have. These students, students who are in rural areas will first of all have a low self-esteem when they come to these rural universities, these urban universities, such as Makerere, such as Uganda Christian University, among others, because they already have a mindset that, first of all, I am from a rural school, a village school, and I cannot compete favorably with my counterparts who are from, let's say, schools like Makerere College, like Budo. That alone has effect. So if Uganda, if our leaders do not have the character to sit down and negotiate and find solutions for these everlasting problems that has to come. They told us in school that we are the leader we are going to be if right now our future is being killed and yet we are supposed to have a future in the years to come. Shall we then manage a country without the knowledge? Shall we manage a country with very substandard skills? Those are questions we must ask ourselves. Life isn't a constant. Today you're young, tomorrow you're old. The leaders of now must know that time will end. And when that time ends, when they go back to their villages and retire, will they be proud of what they've done? That's a question they should ask themselves. Because what kind of leaders would you have left for the seat? Because if your students are not attaining education at the moment, arts teachers are writing. What kind of leaders shall we create? Because it's the arts teachers that are writing. And these are the same arts teachers that taught most of these politicians that we have today. We shouldn't focus on politics. It's the character of leadership that we want. As a student, it hurts me that we have all this going on, and yet very little is being done. Teachers are not asking for a very huge amount of money. Teachers are asking for what is enough for them. These teachers go to the same market. These teachers use the same taxis. They do not maybe get their fuel from a different petrol station that is cheaper. Fuel at the moment is 6,200. You're paying someone 400,000, and then someone is earning 1.4. Will they possibly even save or even take their children to school? Let us look at all those things. If a teacher is demanding for an increment from 800,000, possibly, let's say, 2 million, give it to them. I know we are in a crisis at the moment, but being in a crisis, it comes down to the character of leadership. We need leaders who can respond to challenges and respond appropriately, giving us solutions, everlasting solutions that will produce good and well-equipped laborers that we shall have in years to come. Thank you.
Actually, thank you very much. Talking about leaders, it's interesting. The East African has reported that the amount of money government is spending to increase the pay of the science teachers is about 98 billion. Okay, for this financial year. Now, in comparison, the State House budget or the budget of the president and the dear wife and the close family members with whom he stays, to cater for him, including I think his security and all that, the taxpayer pays over 1.5 billion per day on the president. Okay. In a year, it's over 500 billion on perhaps 2 people, and they are chefs, they are what. So is it a question of the priorities also of our leaders? Okay, but before we go there, and that is to Aruho, is it the quality, is it the priorities of our leaders? Are leaders failing to be responsive, like Mr. Onen has said? Okay, but before we go to that, I would also want to comment on the issue of minimum wage. Mr. Onen noted that Uganda has a minimum wage. Yes, actually it is true. Uganda has a minimum wage, but I would say our minimum wage is almost as present as it is not present. So it's literally air. The minimum wage in Uganda hasn't changed from 6,000, around $1.4 that was set in 1984. There was a proposal to increase it to what Mr. Onen said of 130,000. But unfortunately, the president opposed that. The president opposed minimum wage that it would send away investors. Now, a primary teacher earns just over 500,000. Okay, this is not. We are not even talking about the number of. The challenges they face. Many of them are not even on insurance. They're not insured. They're not under health insurance. The housing insurance is meager, if not there. Transport allowances. So at the end of the day, the teacher may not take home anything. Okay. Again, are our leaders thinking about these teachers? And still on the question of leadership, I think it takes leaders to know and plan, because this particular collective bargaining agreement that UNATU had, it was years ago. I think could have been 2015, okay, when UNATU had, but why did they have to wait for, it was in 2018, actually. Why did government have to wait up to this time? Why couldn't government envisage that there would be a time when teachers will go and begin demanding for what they deserve? Again, Aruho, do you think it's a question of poor leadership or inconsiderate leadership?
Thank you, Martin, once again. In this crisis, it is where we need the leadership of this country to come in and prevail over these matters. You remember one time, one of our leaders, when he was on a TV station, and they asked him, they were talking about this economy, how it is being messed up, and how it is becoming very difficult for ordinary Ugandans to survive. One of our leaders, whom I don't want to mention here, said that we should tighten our belts. I think you remember that it was over in the social media that he told us to tighten our belts. Now, this country spends a lot on our leaders, and which is okay. Our leaders, for example, need security. Our leaders need to be facilitated to do their work. But the fact that they are not feeling what we are feeling, and they are telling us to do things which we don't see them do, that is why the problem is. Because if you are telling us to kukekereza, are you kukekereza yourself? Are you really showing the department to get the English word for that? But our leaders are betraying us in this economy, which is becoming bad. You were talking of the minimum wage, and coming up with the minimum wage. The payroll of this government was distorted. It was distorted in a way that when we started up parastatals, when we started up authorities, that is where things go wrong. Because, for example, an employee of National Water and Sewage Corporation, an employee, if he earns more than an employee of the Ministry of Water and Environment, they are in the same, they have the same qualification, but their earning is what? Is job, or this person in the ministry is doing more than the other person in the authority. There you see that our salary scales were distorted. Now, when this science arts thing came in, then the scale now was totally spoiled, because I am a graduate, and then you say somebody who's at the diploma level earns 3 times the salary me, who is a graduate, earns, and we are in the same environment, we are in the same education institution, we do we may not do the same job, but we attend to the same students. And then you are giving this person without a justification. Let me tell you, if this salary increment was based on a justification, was based on a research that was done, and it was found out that science teachers do a lot of work than arts teachers, we wouldn't be in this mess. Because they would explain, and really we understand. Let me tell you, there is no magic, there is no big thing that a teacher of science does something bigger than an arts teacher do. This I will agree with Mr. Onen. This is discrimination. This is something that the government should sit down and work on, because this is not what really the government of Uganda should be telling us. Martin and members of the panel, there has been a habit of having a government or government officials that use a lot of intimidation in the way they do their things. Let me tell you, you cannot intimidate a teacher. You cannot intimidate a teacher and you force him to go into a class and teach a child. Teaching needs someone who is sober. Teaching needs somebody who is well prepared. Let me tell you, they will force these teachers in class, but there will be no teaching. For us, for teachers, it is very easy to do. Dodging does not necessarily mean that I will keep out of school. I will come to school, sit in my class, And even I can engage these kids. I can engage them in singing, I can engage them in doing other things, and then the bell goes for break, the kids go for break, they come again, and then I also engage them. You will come and find me in class, and you will think I'm teaching. Let me tell you, the government should stop this intimidation. It should look for a way of how it can work on this. Another thing which I wanted to talk about is the uncoordinated communication from our government officials. The way they communicate in this strike is not the way how managing a crisis should be. Those people who have, I think they need to hire an expert such that they can see how this crisis is managed. They should make sure they have a central point of communication, because it is not a matter of putting a microphone under your chin and then you start to say anything, and then the other day we see another person coming up. This kind of language these people are using, it is very, very bad, and moreover, it comes from people whom we respect, people whom we look at, people who are role models of our kids. Because, for example, one official was in Intungamo earlier this week, and the way she was referring to teachers, and she was speaking vernacular, it was bad. And these are the people we look up to. We look, we see them, supposed to be being example to all of us. We look up to them. So please, I'm saying lastly that make sure you don't intimidate teachers. Make sure you don't don't be vulgar, because the way you describe teachers, don't describe them in a way that demean them. Because you are talking to teachers who take care of our kids, and they need respect. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much for that. You've talked about intimidation, and again, this goes to leadership, intimidation, and coordinated positions from government. And mainly on the issue of intimidation is where I want to concentrate. Why, as a country, do we make it seem bad or evil for people to demand what is owed to them? The Daily Monitor reported on 29th June that the minister in charge of education, Honorable Miss Janet Kataha Museveni, told teachers that they betrayed our government during lockdown. And this is quote unquote. We kept paying them, yet they were not working. Therefore, and to my dismay, instead of compensating for the lost time and the money they were paid, they have resorted to striking. What kind of people are they? Now, this was shortly after the letter written, must have been 24th. There was a letter that was written that gave teachers an ultimatum to return to class by the end of the other week, by 24th, I think. They were being mandated to, or else they would be fired. The minister in charge of information reiterated the same things and said teachers should go back to school or else they'll be fired. The prime minister further added salt to injury by saying if they don't want, they should resign. Now, however, there was a ray of hope when on the 30th of June, the vice president, after meeting with the teachers union, called upon government officials to stop intimidating teachers who are lawfully exercising their rights to demand for better conditions and for better pay. So the issue of leadership, again, has to be seen here. And I want to go to to go to you, the parent, Mr. Musinguzi, still on that issue of leadership, how do you think, and adding on to what the other panelists have said, how do you think the government should handle this? This is not the last crisis that our government is going to be faced with. There are going to be many more, you know. After here, who knows, the public, the lecturers in public institutions also want to go for an industrial action for, of course, better pay and better conditions of living. It goes again back to the issue of leadership. How do you think, one, how are our leaders handling this, and how do you think they should handle this? There will always be crises, and we live in deficit budgets. So how should leaders handle this? Mr. Musinguzi.
Thank you very much. Before I answer your question, there is something that was going through my mind. I just read it somewhere. It says in the last 120 years, a lot has changed in our society. If you saw the first tablet, if you saw the first computer, if you saw cars and everything, so many things have changed. The class changed in the 120 years. That there has not been so much innovation around the teacher to find a way they can do their things. So as they call for more pay, I also hope they will look at changing a classroom so that we see it match the modern time. When Paul spoke that they, when government has posted them, it's like when a nurse or a doctor says, I will pierce you badly because the government is mistreating me. I think for me, I would request any teacher who has that way of thinking to really stop it. That when they are fighting out there, when they are negotiating and looking at all those things, I think the teachers should never think, or anybody. It's like when a security force person says, if I'm not paid, I will shoot you or I'll use my gun. I think for me, the teachers, if they want our support, if they want, because now as I come to the leadership aspect, in the next not so many years, we are going to have elections. The Kenyan election, so many promises which are being made by the leaders. People say when they are making this brew, it's not the same language. So I think also the teachers need to make sure they convince the parents to be on their side. The debate that is also there in our society with parents, and I know teachers are also parents, is that people say in the private schools, we know paid less than what the government pays, and yet instead they perform better than the other ones, than those ones in government who also need much more money in order to survive. So for me, while I say that the leaders, they have all the reasons that they are saying, for me, I would wish the teachers to convince us, the parents, to be on the side so that we sort, if it is about removing a government, a sitting government through elections, let them convince the wider community that what we are doing is right. But for me, if the language is also has those threats that we can inflict pain on your children, I think teachers must look at that. Otherwise, I don't know what I've had, whether it will ever augur well with me as a parent, because if I know that you will inflict pain, and then you want me to support you to tell government to pay you or to tell these leaders, for me, that one is another debate we need to look at. But for me, as we debate, we need to see things that will make us look at these leaders to be bad, so that we vote them out, but also look at your side. When you say we can be in classes and we don't teach your children and we let your children suffer, I think for me, and then thirdly, you have people in the private sector who are earning less, but the performance is better. It's a big debate. And once again, I must say, I support those who are asking for whatever they are asking, depending on what they are giving, that should be given to them. But for me, I will again ask you, the teachers, that please change for us the classroom. In the 120 years, make sure that we see the change, the desired change that we need, because society is moving so fast. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Goodluck. Goodluck is telling us seemingly that teachers also have to up their game. If you are to say you need better pay, then earn it, be worth the better pay, So, and again, that's a valid point that I would want in our conclusion to appear. Do we think that indeed the teachers have to first earn it to receive it, earning it in terms of they should be the part. If you want to earn 3 million shillings per month, then let it be reflected in your quality of work. If we are teaching students, learners, and then after P2, a learner cannot express themselves, a learner cannot maybe write, a learner cannot ably, confidently ask for what they want, or a learner has no skill at all. So I would, in our conclusion, we shall begin with Onen to comment on that, but I also want you to comment on what Mr. Musinguzi has said, that and private people in private sector, actually, some of them even earn less than those in government institutions, and yet they continue doing this work, Well, one could say it's because people in private sector essentially have less security of tenure than in public institutions. Public institutions have better security of tenure. But what Musinguzi says is not a bit different from, whereas Musinguzi supports the teachers to put their demands, but when he talks about private sector, he is akin to what the Minister of Education said when she was in Tungamo, and she was quoted to have said that to have insinuated that teachers in government schools are just ingrates. They're not grateful for what they earn. And she said, quote unquote, but they have never, she says, teachers in private schools are paid meager salaries, but they have never engaged in strikes. And the arts teachers striking should borrow a leaf from the teachers in private schools. So she says they are paid little and they keep quiet. She seems to want to normalize it, that, well, you be paid little, don't talk, don't demand. After all, the others are also being paid, that little. And it goes back to the question of leadership. So, which is actually unfortunate to see that instead of sitting down and negotiating, government is resorting to mocking people. But also Musinguzi has also mentioned a very important aspect of using industrial action, sit-down strikes, civil disobedience as a form of struggle to express discontent with a sitting government, or with excesses of government. It has happened elsewhere, where teachers and other labor unions come together, withdraw labor in protest of excesses of government. Could this be the case also for UNATO, that they are discontent with perhaps the public expenditure, the expenditure of the other arms of government, the expenditure on military, the expenditure on the presidency, the expenditure on parliament, the expenditure on judiciary, yet in real sense, those are not delivering and the government is not doing any better? Is this a form of resistance? In your concluding remarks, I would really wish that you touch some of those, pointers, and you react to what Musinguzi has said and what I've also hinted on as we conclude. Ms. Onen, we shall begin with you. In 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. First and foremost, allow me to start by going back to the point I made, character of leadership, or the type of leadership that we have as a country. Comments like that being made by a minister of education is sad. It's very absurd that a minister of education makes such comments that are not informed, that do not have an authority backing them up. You cannot say that, you cannot assert that teachers in private schools are being paid very meager salaries and yet they're comfortable where they are. Does she know, or we need to be informed that working conditions also matter. In private institutions, there are more incentives given to these teachers aside from their salaries. Their salaries might be very meager, but their allowances matter a lot, because the allowances that they receive, or the monies that they have ready for volunteering of from going for taking students out for trips, all those are monies that amount to the monies that these teachers earn at the end of the month. So such comments should not be just made without any findings or without any informed source. So that said and done, allow me to engage with a statement made by Mr. Musinguzi that you need to earn it before you receive it. You see, before, or looking back into our history, when education in this country was still a national commodity, when it was owned by the government, students excelled even in rural areas. Teachers had the incentive. Teachers were looked at as the elite people in the society. My grandfather was a teacher. When my grandfather tells a story that he used to ride his roadmaster bicycle in the village, and everyone would, listen to him and believe him, like everything he said was the gospel truth. Reason being, teachers then not only had the incentive to teach, they had the love to teach. Teachers would be the teachers that would bring into the system were teachers who passed very highly in their courses. But what is happening today? Today, teaching comes as a last resort. Now, all those are factors that needs to be considered. So, earning it before you receive it. Let's look back into our history to make an informed decision. If teachers then had the incentive to teach because the conditions were good, the money they paid was sufficient for them to sustain their life. What is it like now? Right now, the monies that these teachers are receiving are little. The cost of living is high, and yet they receive very little money, and they have just to take their kids to school. So in a scenario whereby you receive very little money, and you have to take your kids to school, but you also have to go and teach other students in school, what does that do to your psychology? Number one, demoralizes. So when you're demoralized, when you're stressed, when your landlord is on your neck, when your kids are home because of school fees, what output will you have for the students? As a teacher, will you therefore deliver good content? Because teachers are taught to teach, to transfer knowledge. So if a teacher is demoralized, if a teacher is mentally disturbed, the content or the knowledge they deliver to the students won't be up to standard. Now, that is a fact. So making statements that earn it before you receive it, to me, in my opinion, must also as well look at a scenario like, why are these teachers striking? They're striking because they also need to pay their landlords. They also need to take their families out for lunch. They also need to, live in society. We're in a very demanding society. It's true that change is there, but as a country, as the government, we need to exhibit character of leadership. We need to handle these challenges that society brings to us must be handled the way it is. So I wouldn't agree with earn it before you receive it, but I'd rather say let us go back and look at what causes these challenges. because of these challenges I've mentioned, one, the low wages paid, the conditions of work, all those are factors that, demotivate these teachers not to deliver content up to standards. Yes, Mr. Goodluck made a point that the time lost right now might not be compensated. Yeah, it's true. And I said, at the beginning of my speech, I said, as a student, I feel bad that we shall have a very substandard labor force in the years to come, which is, without a doubt, we are below standard to what the world is offering currently. Not only does our curriculum even doesn't favor us, regardless of the reforms we have made, we are still way below what the job market is demanding from us. So as a citizen of this country and as a student of this country, I pray, and every day I pray that as the leaders of this nation, please exhibit character of leadership. We're tired of politics. If politics were set aside after elections, you bring your politics during elections. When elections are done, be leaders. Leave politics aside, be leaders, lead the country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Onen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, Mr. Aruho.
Thank you very much once again. I feel the pain of my friend Goodluck. As a parent, I feel it. And I want to apologize if I said something, because his voice this time came when he was feeling some pain, like, I didn't mean that teachers are going to inflict pain on kids. And the example he used of a doctor, that when the doctor is not paid, he will, give you a wrong treatment. That is not what I meant. I was meaning about, teachers are in industrial action, and for you are threatening them of sacking before you hear their demands. Now, if you threaten me to be sacked, and I see I don't have maybe a representation in courts of law, or I'll run to class. I'll run to class, and I may not do the right thing, even if I try to teach, but I will not do the right thing. He also talked about private schools doing better than government schools. I agree with him, but you look at the facilities. What are if you go down in those primary schools, deep in our villages, do you think those are the better facilities our students should be studying in? Some of these schools are in a position where you feel that the teacher, you by the way sympathize with the teacher before you sympathize with the kids. You sympathize with the teacher who comes to these banana leaves thatched schools and starts to deliver a lesson. And then if you look at these private schools, who are the owners? You'll find this school is owned by the DO, this school is owned by a politician, this school is owned by the minister. These are the people who are supposed to do the inspection of our public schools. Now, if I have a school, if I'm a district education officer, I have a school adjacent to a private school, adjacent to a public school, do you think I will put in more effort? I will make sure, first of all, I'll be competing with the public school for pupils. Therefore, there is a likelihood that maybe some of these politicians, our leaders, are also doing something in having our public schools fail. Lastly, Goodluck talked about priorities. Where do you put your priorities? And he used a scenario of buying clothes, and if you don't have enough money, you hold buying clothes, and then you go for another thing. That is fine. We understand that scenario. But here is like when you have 7 children in a home, 6 are girls, 1 is a boy. And then you say, I have bought 1 bread, so I'm giving this bread to the boy. So for you girls, you wait for next month when I get enough money and I buy what? That is the scenario that has happened in this country, and really it needs to be addressed. I thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much. Good luck in 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would summarize like this. I would, I think, ask the parents to get back to their former roles, because when these schools where they are not paying, maybe people think things will go on, because we have this debate. If people want much more money in order to survive and all these, I don't want to go back to the debate. What is the role of parents? How can we either be called back to cushion these people, and we find, like he said, the issue of allowances and others, that's Onen, whether we can come up with top-ups so that we don't see one side paying and then we expect good things. So when the other side is not paying, then we are the ones to suffer. So parents, wherever they are, as we feel the pain of teachers, but also as we feel pain of our children, I think for me it's better someone needs to talk to us that we need to regain our position. In terms of bad facilities, yes, I agree, there are those which are bad facilities, but like teachers are being told or are taught, they can also improvise. And that's what I said about the changing class, that why is it that the class is not changing? We still look at a class as something which is a 4 square, where there are these desks and that's the class. But still, you can teach your children under a tree, but still they can pick. You can put them in different environments and they pick up. So I truly support the teachers in their quest to look for money, but I also ask them that also look inside your hearts and find also a reason to convince parents to join you. Because once parents join you, it will be maybe the whole society will explode. But if you see parents are keeping quiet, also ask yourselves, why is it that parents are not joining us in this? Lastly, a parent, let's put back maybe the PTAs and look for allowances to top up, if that will bring peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good luck, Musinguzi. Thank you very much, Paul Aruho. Thank you very much, Onen Douglas, for this conversation. We cannot exhaust the conversation in just a space of 1 hour and a half, but I thank everyone for tuning in. It has been a great discussion. We continue to encourage government to show leadership. Our leaders show leadership in such a moment of crisis. The demands of the teachers are legitimate. Parents are worried. Children are equally in a state of confusion, in a state of fear of missing out. They are in a state of uncertainty above all. And yet, we still have a lot of work to do. The students, the young generation has to acquire knowledge. They have to acquire skills. And they need teachers, like it or not, intimidation or not. They will need people to teach them. Show leadership. A nation falls and rises on leadership. If you, our leaders, want this nation, this country, to be a better place for everyone, for even your children whom you take in private schools, empower the teachers in government schools. Give the teachers good facilities. Negotiate with them. Convince them to teach in a motivated way. Fulfill your promises. Fulfill your pledges. Honor and understand that they are also people who are entitled to equal pay. They're also entitled to all benefits that come with employment. When you show such leadership, this country will be a better place for all of us. and most importantly, for the learners. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to have our audience. It's always a pleasure to have our guests who are very distinguished and who have helped us partake in this conversation. I remain Martin on behalf of Civic Space TV that hosts this conversation, and I wish you a great week.